All right, welcome back to section 9.2. We'll pick up where we left off, and we're about to talk about two-sided tests. When we look back to our last video, that's what we're looking at right here with our alternative hypothesis. So again, with alternative hypotheses, it'll be the not equals that gives us the two-sided tests. Right. So, the p-value in a one-sided test is the area in one tail of a standard normal distribution, the tail specified by the alternative. So again, these over here are one-tailed tests on the right side specified by the alternative hypothesis. Again, this is a one-tailed test specified to the left in the alternative hypothesis. Okay. So in a two-sided test, the alternative hypothesis has the form of it not equals. So again, our parameter equals some value of the parameter. The p-value in such a test is the probability of getting a sample proportion as far as or farther from p sub 0 in either direction than the observed value of p hat. So in other words, again, p-value is a value that is in these areas here, where the arrows are pointing. It's a probability value. As a result, you have to find the area in both tails of a standard normal distribution of a two-tailed test to get the p-value. Or as I stated in the last video, find the area in one and just double it due to the symmetric nature of the normal curve. Well, going back to chapter 8, confidence intervals are a little bit better than this p-value test, the statistic test for testing an alternative hypothesis. Because the result of a significance test is basically a decision to reject the null or fail to reject the null. If you remember, we were looking for a value within that confidence interval, if it was contained in there or not contained. So when we reject the null hypothesis, we're left wondering what the actual proportion p might be. So if we say, hey, it's wrong, well, we have no idea without just doing a statistics test what that value might be. So a confidence interval might shed some light on that. So if we look at a problem where Taeyeon found that 90 of an SRS of 150 students said that they had never smoked a cigarette. Okay? So again, we're going to look for, there's a p hat right there. P hat is that 90 out of 150. Okay, so you could certainly use the fraction for the answer here as well, or for that statistic. The number of successes and the number of failures in the sample are 90 and 60. So respectively, if you proceed with the calculations, that p hat value is 0.60. That 90 divided by 150. The 60 divided by 150 is that 0.4. Okay. The 150 is your sample size. As you start going through this problem, we're doing our whole confidence interval piece. Again, if we did this looks like we're doing a 95% confidence interval, and 95% confidence interval has a z-star of 1.96. This was the hypothesized value of 0.6, or the value that the p hat that we found actually. So when we do the calculations, you get your confidence interval. This should be a reminder from chapter 8. So we're 95% confident that this interval here captures the true proportion, that true p-value of students at Taeyeon's high school who would say that they have never smoked a cigarette. So a little bit more information there that we can get provided by a confidence interval. And there is a link between confidence intervals and two-sided tests. The 95% confidence interval gives an appropriate range of those possible p-hat values, those possible p-hat values to estimate that give us an estimate of the true population parameters that would not be rejected by a two-sided test. So in other words, if we go back to here, the value that we have here in this confidence interval, I'm 95% confident the true population portion is somewhere in there. So if I got a value that was in between these values, I wouldn't reject the null. And that's what we're saying here, is the 95% interval gives an approximate range that would not be rejected by a two-sided test. In that case, the alpha was 0.05 because we had a 95% confidence interval, which leaves us 5% for that error. So, in other words, a two-sided test, as I was just calculating, significance level alpha, if that's 0.05, we'd have a confidence level of 1 minus that, or a 95% confidence level, or interval, if we're given an alpha of 0.05. All right. Let's take a look at type 1 and type 2 error in what's called the power of a test. So what you're going to want to remember back from our definitions in section 1, a type 2 error. A type 2 error is when you fail to reject a null when it really is false. Okay, so remember, type 2 error, failing to reject when it's false. Well, in a situation, there are many values of a parameter that make the alternative hypothesis true, so we're going to concentrate on one value. Okay, that's kind of the key thing, is we're going to concentrate on one value that would be in that area. We'll do a problem in a second here. So the probability of making a type 2 error depends on several factors, including the actual value of the parameter. A high probability of type 2 error for a specific alternative parameter value means that the test is not sensitive enough to usually detect that alternative. So here's kind of the key point here. The power of a test against a specific alternative. So what'll happen is there'll be a stated hypothesis, and then you're going to say, no, I think it really is an alternative parameter. And the power of a test against a specific alternative is the probability that the test will reject that null at a chosen significance level, what we choose ahead of time for an alpha, when the specified alternative value of the parameter is true. Okay, so let's kind of look at examples in that to help that make sense a little bit. So we've got a potato chip producer who wonders whether the significance test of a null hypothesis of 0.08. So again, they're being told that the proportion of potato chips that have blemishes is 8%. Well, we have a little suspicion, and we think that that proportion is a little bit higher than that. Okay? We actually think that it might be like 11%. So there's our specific alternative. We're looking at a specific alternative. This is a general alternative that we're saying that it's greater than 0.8. So we're going to do a specific value of the alternative. Here is 11%. And we want to see, what does this significant test that we're about to do have enough power to detect a shipment that really does have 11% when it really should have 8%. Okay? So we're going to start off. You start off with the problem in doing this problem is you state off, make the mean of what's originally proposed of 0.8, and then with a 5% significance level, and we're going to go in and find, we got 5% error that we're going to allow. So you can actually go into your table A and look at, this is 95% up to this value. So you can go through and calculate that and calculate the value that this would need to be with a mean of 0.80 and be able to calculate what that p hat would be for 0.05. And the calculation shows here that that'd be 0.0999. But if we're looking at what if the true population proportion is 0.11? What if it was 0.11 and not 0.8 as was stated? Well, let's look at a whole nother situation. We've got to do a whole other graph then based on the new evidence that we've got. All right. So we make a new graph with a mean of 0.11. Sorry for the sloppiness of that. And then look at that p hat that was calculated and see where that falls on the new graph. And that falls in about right there. And what we can do is we can calculate this area right here. Okay. And that area would be 0.2483. 1 minus that would be this area right here. Well, this value right here is what's called the power of the test. I've got a 75.17% power to detect that that p equals 1.11 is really the percentage of blemished potatoes when it should have been 0.8. Back over here, this is what's called the type 2 errors, the probability of me failing to reject the null when I didn't, when I said it was true. So if you look back to it, that's where that 0.08 was. And we're saying, well, yeah, I probably would have rejected that original because it was close to it. But if the value is really 0.11, I'm making some huge mistakes here in assuming that. And that's what the type 2 error is, making that mistake in here. And up here, then, that 1 minus that type 2 error is the probability or the power to detect the test. All right, so the significance level of a test, that's our alpha, okay, is the probability of reaching the wrong conclusion when the null hypothesis is true. Okay. The power of a test to detect a specific alternative is the probability of reaching the right conclusion when the alternative is true. We can just as easily describe the test by giving the probability of making a type 2 error. And sometimes we say type 2 error is a beta error. Type 1 error is the alpha error. So go back up here. Type 1, we talk about that. We generally also refer to that as alpha error. Okay, and that's the significance level. And again, the power of a test against the alternative is 1 minus the probability of type 2 error. So in other words, power is calculated by going 1 minus the beta error. There's our summary of all the items we should have learned in this section. Again, being able to state and check the conditions for inference, performing a significance test about a population proportion P, and then interpreting the power of a test, describing what factors affect the power of a test, and describing the relationship between the probability of a type 1 error, which is the significance level, the alpha, probability of a type 2 error, which is beta, and the power of a test, which is actually equal to 1 minus beta. All right. Good luck, and we'll see you in section 9.3.